In this video, I want to break down how to become a highly paid front-end developer. Now, I currently make multiple six figures at a startup, but made even more as a software engineer at Google doing front-end development. I'll be condensing down 6 years of front-end development experience down into a few core ideas: how front-end development is often misunderstood and where the hidden opportunities are, how to expand your breadth of knowledge as a front-end developer so you aren't just a one-trick pony, the most stable opportunity to pursue, how to become a highly valued front-end expert on your team, and finally, I've got a total curveball at the end, which I'll save for later in the video. Okay, stay tuned and let's dive in. Idea number one, how front-end development is often misunderstood. There's a lot of information online about how you need to know HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to become a front-end developer, but then the discussion usually stops there. The field of front-end development is wildly misunderstood. Part of the problem is that front-end development really spans several different disciplines. On one end of the spectrum, we have user interface developers who exclusively focus on implementing interfaces. These people bring a designer's deliverable to life. The skills needed here are much similar to that of a hybrid designer/coder who can implement what they design. I think this is what most people assume front-end developers do. They bring a design mockup to life using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that'd be true in many cases. However, on the other end of the spectrum, we have folks that are responsible for data and state management for highly complex applications. These people are more akin to a generalist software developer, wrangling data and moving it around to make apps work. The skills needed to succeed here are much similar to the skills needed to succeed in backend development. It's just that the data is not moving between backend services and APIs. The data is moving between a front end and back end, or even within the front end application itself. Idea number two is to expand your breadth of knowledge. Over time, you want to be exposed to several different subdomains within front end development. For starters, here are a few big categories of work. This is not a comprehensive list, but it covers the big umbrellas. There's going to be UI development, which is HTML and CSS heavy. There's going to be data visualization, which is going to require familiarity with data visualization libraries. And there's going to be lots of massaging of data and moving data around. There's app development, which is going to include some UI development, state management, and syncing with server state, like making API calls and invalidating client-side caches. There's component design, which is HTML, CSS heavy, accessibility heavy, and it's more challenging than the typical UI development work because it has to accommodate so many use cases. There's canvas and 3D rendering and graphics work, which is going to include WebGL and the various rendering libraries on top of WebGL. I'd argue that most everyone will fall under UI development and app development in most of their front-end careers. This is because that's where the most development resources need to be used to move the needle on software, unless you're working on a product that is heavy on graphics work or data visualization. In those scenarios, it's possible that you'll have dedicated folks working on the graphics or data visualization. But as a front-end developer seeking lucrative, stable opportunities, it helps to be exposed to different domains. Personally, I did a bit of graphics and WebGL work during my time at Sony, and the context of that project helped me dive into some of the SVG work that I'm doing now at the startup that I work for. I did some data visualization for fun in the past projects. That's helped me structure my approach to how I write code that massages and transforms data in the day-to-day app development that I do now. The lessons from each domain cross-pollinate and make you a better developer overall. It's also just more fulfilling long-term to be exposed to different disciplines and learn new things. Idea number three, app development is the most stable and abundant opportunity. The most lucrative and widely available gig for front-end developers, as of today, are the ones where you work on data-heavy web applications. This is because a software developer that's embedded into the functioning of a system plays a more critical role in the business than one that's only implementing interfaces. Put bluntly, and this is a generic statement, so take it with a grain of salt, the work of implementing interfaces is a more replaceable cog in the business machinery, since it takes less training and less context for someone to get up to speed. Same thing goes for data visualization and graphics work. These can be fairly isolated in context. Don't get me wrong, these niches can be key pieces to a software business, and you can absolutely make a killing being specialized in these subdomains. And it can be a really good gig, especially if you enjoy the kind of work that you get to do. As for myself, my strength is in UI and component development because I started out as a web designer and I've developed an eye for design and typography. I'm not saying you shouldn't pursue those opportunities, but if you're not sure which subdomain to pursue, then I would recommend defaulting to app development for its stability and rich ecosystem of jobs. And the way you get good at developing apps is to build apps. More specifically, build what you want to build. Because coding can be a ton of work and building apps can be really hard. You'll make the most progress when the work itself is enjoyable. Idea number four, how to become a highly valued front-end expert on your team. An often overlooked aspect of professional development is what your peers say about you. And as front-end developers, we will be working a lot with designers. They'll send us their deliverables, and it'll be our jobs to communicate limitations, discuss trade-offs, and make recommendations. The quality of your communication here matters a ton. What the designer says about you will indirectly affect your performance reviews and your future prospects for work. It's wise to learn to be an effective communicator with designers. And the best way that I know how to do this is to see things through their eyes. As a former web designer, I can say that these two resources will get you up to speed on the fundamentals of UI design. First, read the Gestalt principles. Next, read the guide on practical typography. I've linked both of these resources down below in the video description. Having this foundational knowledge in design will equip you with the language to communicate why you feel a certain way about a designer's decision. It'll give you the opportunity to help iterate on their work and further their impact, which in turn will eventually come back to help you. It'll make you a better collaborator and a valuable asset to your team, because not many engineers go through the effort of understanding how a designer thinks. And finally, idea number 5, the curveball, exercise on the regular. Probably the most overlooked aspect of professional development is your physical fitness. Maybe this is a bit taboo and maybe even ethically repulsive for some people. And I'm definitely not the most qualified person to harp on this point. But I've personally made an effort to exercise several times a week for the last couple of years, and it's done wonders for my fitness, focus, and relationships, which in turn helps me professionally. There's 2 central reasons why exercise is so important. It's quite literally conditioning of your body and mind. This is the vehicle that makes you money. Take care of it. Don't feed it crap all the time. You want to be tuning its performance over time. And number 2, it has tons of subconscious ripple effects on your social circumstances. Think about it. All other things being equal, between 2 people, would you give an opportunity to someone who is in good shape and takes care of themselves, or someone who lives a sloppy life and is clearly lacking in the fitness department? As much as we don't like to confront this fact, physical fitness is a serious advantage in modern society. You can find out more about this by Googling the term attractiveness bias. It's been researched and well studied. Okay, and that's it for today's video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about the video, and I'd be happy to answer any of them. I also have an email newsletter dedicated for people who are interested in becoming a programmer. I send insights on how to be a high-performing software developer, and sometimes more generally on being a high-performing individual. I'll leave a link in the video description. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye-bye.